The Russian people should understand that the World Trade Organization is not the disinterested custodian of a neutral project for the organization of an open world economy. It is the sectarian agent of an agenda that directly contradicts the Russian national interest as well as the interest of humanity. In entering into the World Trade Organization, Russia should agitate in alliance with the other major emerging economies in the world, fundamentally to change the direction of the WTO. The world trade system that is being developed under the aegis of the WTO is shaped by 4 principles. Each of these principles should be denounced, rejected, and replaced. The first principle is the attempt to take the maximization of free trade as the commanding goal of the entire system. Free trade should not be legitimately pursued as an end in itself. It is a means. The true goal is the coexistence of alternative strategies of national development and alternative experiences of civilization within a world economy that becomes progressively more open. If the condition of openness is the suppression of national divergence, then every country will have to choose between surrender and isolation. And it will in the end prefer isolation to surrender. A second principle shaping the global trade regime under the aegis of the WTO is an institutional maximalism, an attempt to impose on the trading countries, in the name of free trade, a commitment, not just to the market economy in general, but to a very particular version of a market economy, the version now established in the rich North Atlantic world. As a result, the WTO treaties seek to prohibit, under the label subsidies, all the forms of strategic partnership between governments and businesses that the now rich countries used in order to become rich. And they try to incorporate into the rules of free trade an intellectual property regime that leaves the most important technological innovations in the hands of a small number of big multinational businesses. We should insist on an institutional minimalism to replace this institutional maximalism. The principle of this institutional minimalism is to achieve the maximum of economic openness with the minimum of restraint on the institutional experiments within each national economy, including the experiments about the organization of the market economy itself. We know for a fact that such an institutional minimalism is feasible because it in fact characterized the regime of the GATT that preceded the regime of the WTO. The third principle that is organizing the world trade regime under the rule of the WTO is a radical inequality in the treatment of things and of money on one side and of people on the other. The WTO treaties try to secure the greatest freedom for commerce and capital to roam the world, while leaving people imprisoned in the nation state or in blocks of relatively homogeneous nation states, such as the European Union. No reform in the world would make a greater contribution to equality around the world than progress in labor mobility, in the right of labor to cross national frontiers. It could not be done in one fell swoop, but only slowly, gradually, in many small steps, with guarantees for the receiving countries and compensations for the sending countries. Freedom for money and capital is sometimes useful and sometimes harmful, but freedom for people to move around the world is sacrosanct, because it is part of the process by which humanity becomes both unified and diverse. What we must therefore want is for people to gain, together with things and with money, freedom to move in small cumulative steps. The fourth principle governing the development of the world trade regime under the WTO is the abandonment of labor to conditions of economic oppression. The question is, on what basis of the status of labor will the world economy be organized? They claim that it is being organized on the basis of free labor. But will free labor be really free? Will we be satisfied with the mere appearance of contractual relations in employment? Or will we impose effective restraints on the oppression of workers? Will we make it possible to inspire a passage in the future from the predominance of wage labor to the higher forms of free labor, self-employment and cooperation throughout the world? Economic openness, yes. The Metternichian project of the WTO, no. The interest of the Russian people is to engage the world economy, but to insist on the transformation of the world trade regime. To do that, Russia must seek an alliance with the other major emerging economies, and Russia must insist on its own strong national project. How is it that we will have change in the world? Only through the pressure created by strong national projects. Projects that mobilize the physical, economic, and human resources of the nation, that embark on a bold trajectory of institutional innovation, and that as a result insist on active rather than passive globalization, engaging the world economy on terms that preserve the space for national economic experimentation. The WTO, as it is now established, is an enemy of the Russian people. What the world wants from Russia is resistance and invention in its own service and in the service of humanity.